Let's start with the whole trying to make a lavalier microphone sound better thing, and this is something that I have been working on and thinking about and testing for months at this point. I went on an entire story arc on this podcast months ago, but I was thinking more about it and doing a few more tests, and I wanted to share those tests with you, so let's jump to something I recorded hours ago. I'm fully aware that I went on my lavalier microphone story arc a couple of months ago, but I wanted to do another test, and I figured, hey, I'm gonna record it, I'll share it with you. So right now I have the Sennheiser ME2 about 7 inches or 6 inches below my mouth in the center of my chest. This is what I determined to be the best sounding tonally. And then I also have the Neumann, hello Neumann, KM185, a hypercardioid SDC, I would say about 10 inches from my mouth. Now back to the lav mic. The issue I have, I record sitting at a desk. So although this is the best sounding tonally, in my opinion, other than putting it on my cap, it picks up the worst amount of reflections directly off the desk because it's also really close to that. So that is an issue that we run into when we put the microphone where it sounds best tonally. It also sounds the worst in terms of reflections. So instead, I want to try putting the lav mic on the collar of my hoodie, getting it closer to my mouth and further away from the reflective surface to see if we can then EQ it in post to sound a bit better, to sound more like it's in the center of my chest, while simultaneously reducing the amount of reflections being picked up by it. Because the tone is something we can alter, but removing all the reverb that's being picked up or the reflections off of the desk, that is extremely difficult, and if you can do it at all, it is incredibly destructive. So that's pretty much what I'm doing. I'm going to have turned on an EQ to see if we can get it to sound better. And the reason I have the Neumann set up is I wanted to try to EQ match the lav to the SDC to see if we can get it to sound better that way. That way I don't have to spend 20 minutes trying to EQ it to sound better. I can just let the EQ just match it. It saves me a bunch of time. So that is the test. Let me know what you think if you're watching this or listening to this on YouTube. Do you think it sounds better being clipped to the collar of my shirt? Without EQ, it will sound a lot duller, a lot deader, but once we engage the EQ, does it sound better? And more importantly, do the amount of reflections decrease, and does it sound better in that regard when the microphone is on my collar, which is what it is right now, versus when we have the lav mic clipped to the center of my chest about 6 or 7 inches below my chin, where the microphone is able to get a more direct line of sight to my mouth and avoid what I have heard called a chin shadow. Does it sound better here or on the collar? That's the test. Okay, back to the podcast. I don't know about you, but I am a little bit surprised by the results there because I wasn't expecting to get such a good sound out of having the lav on my collar. I know I've been saying this a lot over the last couple of years. It seems as though I've been living in a lie. What is going on? Why don't I test everything and come up with my own opinions on stuff as opposed to just trusting everything that comes towards me? I still think using a small diaphragm condenser sounds significantly better than a lav mic. But if you are forced to use a lav mic in a very non-ideal environment, like sat at a desk in front of a computer monitor where all of that is just going to reflect your voice right back at the microphone, I think it's okay to have the lav mic on your collar and get a little bit duller of a sound, as opposed to having it in the proper position in the center of your chest, where the microphone is significantly closer to a super duper reflective surface like your desk. I think it's the exact same reason why you don't want to use a shotgun microphone and underboom when you're sat at a desk, because the reflective surface is right next to the microphone, which is going to make those reflections significantly louder. So with lav mics, given that the majority of them are omnidirectional, I think that the placement of the microphone is an even more important part of the equation than the tonal portion of the equation, because yes, you may get a better tone with the lav placed 7 inches below your chin in the center of your chest, but that introduces a world of pain and hurt in the form of reflections and reverb, which is even more difficult to resolve than a little bit of darkness in the tone. You can easily brighten up a microphone, still not going to sound great, especially compared to a full-sized small diaphragm condenser or a large diaphragm condenser. But between the two options in this situation, sat at a desk in front of a computer monitor where there is a bunch of reflections going on, I think I'm going for putting the microphone on the collar, which is not advocated for. I think it sounds better. Call me crazy, maybe so. I'd much rather add a little bit of EQ than have to try to go in and de-reverb something which is 10 times more destructive than a high shelf. That is me trying to make a lavalier microphone sound better